So this is the second lecture for chapter 20, and we're going to start off with the standard hydrogen electrode, which is the basis for comparing all the other reduction potentials. So for this setup here, what we have in this little container, oops, let me switch this over, back up, and go to our little pen. There we go. In this container here, we have hydrogen, which is at 1 atm, so standard pressure, and 1 molarity, which is standard concentration. And platinum is not at all involved in the reaction, it's just kind of there. Well, it's the catalyst, if you will. It's where the reaction is going to take place. So, anyways, it's not involved in the reaction. So, for this comparison, you have two things that could happen. You could have hydrogen for the ions, which are going to be reduced, which means they're going to gain electrons and turn into hydrogen gas. Or you could have the hydrogen gas, which is going to lose electrons and go from hydrogen gas into hydrogen ions. So it can go either way. It's not like a one-way street. It can do either one based upon what it's actually reacting with or looking at the electron potential. So let's look at the next one over here. So looking at this comparison, based upon how these things will play out, you're going to have one thing that's going to be reduced at the cathode and one thing that's going to be oxidized at the anode. How this is determined is whichever one has the least negative value or most positive value, that is going to be occurring at the cathode every single time. And whatever is being oxidized is going to happen at the anode. But here's the trick, and this is where people make mistakes on tests. The values are always reduction potentials. Notice this listing here. So even when I'm having oxidation occurring, I always still use the reduction potential off the chart. Don't change the arrows on there or the positive negative sign. It's always going to be reduction potential regardless. So it's the differences in the reduction potentials. Got it. One other side note here just to mention, this property, this electric potential, is an intensive property, which simply means that it doesn't matter how much I have of this substance, it's always going to be the same electronic potential difference constant. So a difference would be, well, I guess we can make the comparison with density. It doesn't, for water, it doesn't matter if I have a gram of this or if I have 1,000 grams of it, the density of water is still 1. Unlike mass, the more you have, the more you have. So that's an extensive property. This, for electron cell potential, is only going to be intensive. It does not change. It's a constant value. So going back to our hydrogen scenario, which we have here, notice again that we have the electrons flowing from zinc, which means that is losing electrons, it's being oxidized, and it's going over to gaining electrons being reduced over at the hydrogen standard hydrogen electrode. So looking at these values off a chart, hydrogen by definition is 0. Doesn't matter. This one here is more negative. So as far as which one goes where, this one is a less negative value, 0. So that is happening at the cathode. And this one is happening at the anode. So 0 minus a negative 0.76 gives us a positive 0.76. So this, with a positive value, is considered spontaneous. So that's something we talked about in the previous chapter, and it works exactly the same way here, except our sign is different. So positive indicates spontaneous. And we can look at some different potentials here. For strong oxidizing agents, fluorine is a very strong oxidizing agent, which means it loses, or actually it gains electrons. It's an agent, so it gains electrons. It itself is reduced. And you can look at the opposite going over here for lithium. Lithium is going to lose electrons, so it's very easy to oxidize, and it's a good reducing agent. Okay. Just an example, again, we always go back to copper versus zinc. In this example, copper has a more positive value, so that is going to happen at the cathode, reduction. And this is a more negative value, it's going to happen at the anode, oxidation. So if I look at the whole potential, no, it doesn't list it there. Well, here we go. the hole potential is a positive 1.10. Could it go the other direction? Not under voltaic conditions. Okay, another expression that we can look at here is how the electron or electronic potential is related to free energy, or the spontaneity of the reaction. The things we have in this reaction, or excuse me, the equation here, is the number of moles, which are going to change place, Faraday's constant, which is listed at the bottom, and then the electrolytic potential of the cell. So it's actually a pretty easy equation that we can work with, and there's some other ones that aren't so much, but we can see how those are put together here in just a second. Standard conditions we mentioned already. This little arrow thing there, or little degree symbol I should say, means that your standard conditions 1 molarity, 1 atm, and 25 degrees Celsius. So here's an equation that we did in the last chapter. Remember that this is for equilibrium. So all these things come together. We have equilibrium, free energy, and electrolytic potential. If we combine these three, we can get a new equation, which is kind of in here, but we'll see these in class, but the one I'm really after here is this one. These are all constants at 25 degrees Celsius, which it kind of breaks down to simply that. If we put it all together, we get that. And now we can look at, under standard conditions, what happens based upon the differences in concentration for products to reactants. So we can look at an equation which has the exact same substance, but under different concentrations. So as we'll see in the next slide here, if you have nickel solution, it's like, well, it's the same stuff, there's no change. But if we change the concentration of nickel, then we can actually drive a potential. So this is under standard conditions. So if both the products and reactants in an equation are the same, this is equal to 0, or 1, log of it is equal to 0, and then it's just done. There is no potential of this cell. There's no electrons moving in the system. But if we change those concentrations, like we're doing here, we have a dilute solution and we have a concentrated solution. So what is going to want to happen here is the potentials are going to want to equal out. So we're going to have electrons actually leaving this nickel plate on the left and moving towards the nickel plate on the right. And why does it do this? Well, if I have electrons on this plate building up, the nickel concentrate solution is going to plate out, and this value, concentration of nickel, is going to decrease. So that is going to go down over there, and as electrons are leaving the plate on the left, those will go into solution, and you'll increase more nickel ions in solution. So eventually, after a period of time, these will equal out. And then the cell potential goes back down to 0, and you're done. Okay, a couple little applications of oxidation reduction. This is pretty close to the end here. Looking at this example, we all know that iron rusts. So here you have solid iron in the presence of water, oxygen, which, believe it or not, is a really good oxidizing agent. So it's going to gain electrons, be reduced itself. And in the presence of just water or even a slightly acidic solution, you'll end up with, at the end of the line, some iron oxide, having a full reaction. So the iron lost electrons, oxygen gained electrons, they bonded together, iron oxide, rust. So how do you prevent this from happening? Well, you can add something called a sacrificial anode, or cathodic protection. And under these conditions, what you have is something that is more easily oxidized than iron. So in this case, zinc, its oxidation, or excuse me, its reduction potential is greater than iron. So have you heard of like galvanized metal? They put it on metal to prevent it from rusting. They do the same thing with iron pipes underground to prevent them from corroding over time. So they connect like a zinc substance next to it, and the one thing that's going to lose electrons along the way is going to be zinc in this case. So it's going to lose electrons, it's going to be oxidized more easily. So when these guys are in connection and you have some oxidation that's going to take place, the iron will stay in place as long as there is at least some zinc. So kind of interesting that that's how they protect battleships from rusting out in the ocean, and how they prevent copper lines from degrading underground. Okay, that's it. That's the end of the lecture.